Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Morrow Public Speaking Presentations, Vienna Live with Simeon Morrow, and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, a link to which I'll now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. This show thrives on participant contributions, and all participants are encouraged to actively participate in this webinar by asking questions and making comments. To do so, please either write in the chat room, raise your hand, or turn on your microphone and say hi, and I'll be delighted to include your perspective in the conversation. Tonight, our featured guest is Natalia Villanueva García, a certified expert in spirituality who works as an author, life coach, and public speaker on the topic of spirituality as a resource for mental health. Natalia joins us from her practice in Vienna, Austria. Natalia, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Natalia, so tell us, as I said, you're in Vienna, the home of Freud. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in psychology.
Well, my very first interest as a child was spirituality. And spirituality crosses some disciplines like psychology, philosophy. And so in the parts where there were similarities or things that were of help or complementing, I read a lot about how psychology sees that, how religions or spiritual teachers see that, and I always made this parallel. So my interest was not solely on psychology; it was like because it's such a like neighbor field. Yes.
And also, I understand you're a musician. Coming from
Yes.
a musical background, how is it natural then to be interested in psychology? Do musicians have a lot of neuroses?
No, I think it's a different personalities. And my first interest was spirituality, my very first interest as a child. Later on came music. So maybe it can be other way around. Does all spiritual person play some interesting or are musical? Maybe yes, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that spirituality, your personal spirituality. I understand that when you've been on the show several times, we're very privileged to have you on again. And other times you mentioned about how your Catholic faith was important, that you were very observant as a Catholic Christian. Tell us where does that spirituality differ then from that religion, or is it the same?
Well, it's no, it's very different. The essence in all religions are the same in the sense that there is a loving something, however you want to call it, and then there's of course system and rules and so on in the different religions or practice, if you don't want to call them rules. So yeah, it's a more experiential, broad perspective what I have right now than how I was raised as a Catholic person in my country. Yes, so it's different.
Okay, so tell us about becoming a certified spiritual coach. What yes, a spiritual life coach. So tell us, what does it that makes you certified then? When most people think about spirituality, yeah, they think about somebody who really is not academic, somebody who kind of, is
Exactly.
completely an iconoclast, has nothing, it's very amateur. In other words, there's no way of systemizing it. There's no way of kind
Exactly.
of a scientific approach, because it's so personal, and then people are called mystics, and that's kind of I imagine the greatest insult to spiritual professionals. So tell us a little bit about becoming a certified spiritual life coach.
Yes, exactly. So actually the title is academic expert in spirituality. So the word academic is before expert too, because as you mentioned at the beginning, Vienna is the city of Freud, and the Freud University has this certification. So they realize there is a lot of demand on spirituality, but it's kind of not structured. And is their first attempt to structure more or less spirituality in an academic way, so that more or less we can offer to the market a structured academic spiritual basis. So it's this certification is like a pioneer intent to try to make spirituality organized, so we can offer a product to the society that is a little bit structured. Yeah, I will repeat the word again, like and then you can have more clarity and choose what fits best for you. So how did they do that? So the professors are psychotherapists, mostly psychoanalysts, analytics, who are also very spiritual, also from specific religions. So we had huge modules, each module with a specific religion, but also from the perspective of or from a psychiatrist or a psychoanalysis. So we had all these perspectives, and why is it important to include? Why is it a resource? How can it be leveraged? Which things psychology borrow from spirituality that is like thousands of years old? And this field of psychotherapy is 120, 130 years old. So there's many things they have proven to be working, but actually they come from long traditions of spirituality as an umbrella concept, to not say religions, because that's a very complex topic. So spirituality in the meaning that there is something, that we are more than this physical body, that we are eternal, and there is a higher consciousness or an inner wisdom that we can tune to. So that's how they build up this certification. And it's the second certification they offer, but they want to build it to a real bigger thing. Probably in 5 to 7 years will be a study. I hope so. Yes. So it's an attempt to structure.
And Natalia, tell us, so today I know I've spoken with cognitive behavioral therapists, for example. You don't need to become a doctor or a PhD to become a licensed cognitive behavioral therapist. They believe that psychoanalysis is really something very of the past. Even insurances don't accept it anymore. They won't pay for it as a form of mental health care. I understand at the beginning, Freud, of course, he was a doctor, he was a PhD, I think, if not a medical doctor. And he placed a big emphasis, I imagine, on going through that kind of mainstream academic formation. Now today, what makes it different? What makes, why wouldn't you go that path too? Why become then kind of a certified coach in something when you could become, for instance, a certified cognitive behavioral therapist?
Yes. So I differentiate the human experience in different phenomena. So we have our experience in the phenomena of physical Then we have also behaviors. So in the physical, I will put the group of psychiatrists. They know about the biology, they know about the chemistry in the brain, and it's very helpful when something's not working and they do their expertise. And then there's the other phenomena of the behavior that are things we actually do. And then there's the experts in behavior, and we are very lucky we have them to help us in that phenomenon. Then we have the phenomena of the emotions. So then it's different, like psychoanalysis or the human school, humanistic school, I think is the name, or the system theory too. So they have figured out ways how to deal with emotions. So these are the experts. And then behind that, there is the non-physical, eternal, subtle awareness. So some people are feeling called to that experience, some not at all. And both are okay, because there will not be an experience of the non-physical if there was no physical. So in order for my opinion to exist, there must be the counterpoint opinion of what I'm saying right now is nonsense. So there must be both. So for me, each phenomena has its expert. And my fascination is this, let's say, subtle experience of the human life. Yes. So
Fantastic.
they all help depending where you need help or where is a problem right now. Yes.
And we will go into that shortly, how they
Yeah.
are not substitutes for each other, that they can coexist and support each other. So let's take a look at a recent conference you did. This is a conference speech called "What is Hidden Behind Our Desires?"
Oft verlassen wir uns zu 100% auf die Realität. Wir sagen, wie es ist, wir sehen die Tatsachen, wir sagen die Wahrheit. Aber wir haben vergessen, dass wir eine Alternative haben. Wir glauben, dass wir die Dinge so sehen müssen, wie sie sind. Denn wenn wir es nicht tun, sind wir unverantwortlich, sind wir unlogisch. Und diese Angst, nicht realistisch zu sein und die Tatsachen nicht zu sehen, raubt uns unsere Fantasie, unsere Inspiration, unsere Kreativität. Und es ist genau hier, wo der Genuss ist, in den neuen Ideen. Sie sind frisch, sie sind interessant. Alle anderen Dinge, die wir sonst tun, dienen nur dem Vergnügen, das weiter zu entwickeln, was wir uns bereits vorgestellt haben. Wir könnten daher mehr Wert auf den Prozess unserer Vorstellungskraft legen und etwas weniger Wert auf die Fakten. Denn die Freude des Lebens liegt nicht in die fix und fertige Veränderung. Die Freude an unserem Leben liegt in dem Prozess der Veränderung der Realität. Aber unsere Realität kann sich nicht ändern, wenn wir unseren Gehirn nur dazu benutzen, das zu sehen, was wir bereits sehen. Wenn unser Geist für die Vorstellungskraft offen ist, dann beginnt unser Leben richtig Spaß zu machen. Wir müssen nicht viel tun, nur das, was wir schon tun, und es nur ein wenig verändern. Eine kleine Änderung in unserem inneren Dialog halt in unserem Bewusstsein gewaltig nach. Die Ideen fließen dann leicht, weil wir von einem Zustand der Reaktion zu einem Zustand der Schöpfung übergehen. Vielen Dank.
So Natalia, so tell us a little bit about this conference. I think somebody would be forgiven for thinking it was kind of a yoga session. I mean, it sounds very relaxing. Tell us about what you're getting across, and how it is that I mean, it seems like we can feel that feeling of well-being that you're communicating, but it seems like you're kind of showing people just a secret, and you're saying, I have this secret, but it's mine. Tell us about that.
Well, my purpose with this small talk is to integrate a little bit the non-real into our life. So that's the whole intention. We usually use the word, you imagine it as something that has no value. And I want to make a point that imagine something has a great value. And I'm not talking in sense of imagination in the art, because then of course has a lot of value. I am talking in the sense of creating our reality, our life. So if I have a bad relationship with my friend or with my boyfriend or whoever is near to me, I can imagine a better one and make like a little bit of contrast to the hard facts. So it's not seeing what is the facts, but our mind also has the ability to imagine for a reason, not only to make works of art. We can also create with our mind our reality or our day. And that's the only purpose, not to choose one but to a little bit take it also into account that the things we see are our facts, are real, but there's also something we can change, and there's things we can imagine and invent. So that's the whole intention.
Natalia, when you say that, you make me think right away about what I've read about cognitive behavioral therapy, which seems to have the basest idea that when, for instance, if I do an exam at school and I get a very bad grade, then with just that information, I feel bad and I think, oh, I'm awful. But if I have the information that actually everyone else in the class did worse than I did, or pretty much everyone else, then I feel good about myself. So how is that different then, that perspective of having, okay, well, I'm not alone, or I'm on the same level as other people?
Yeah, well, that belongs to the phenomena of the emotion and behavior. So the way to deal with that is the way the experts in this field have find out or researched. So yes, this way of changing, like the glass full or the glass empty. So I'm the worst, but I'm not so the worst one. So it does make you feel good a little bit. What the spiritual phenomena does is knowing the value you have for being you, period. So this awareness only comes when you build a relationship with, it's difficult to explain, what with the true self that you are. So once you connect to the confidence that you naturally are, like a baby or a small child, they are confident, period. So that's like the natural state we were born. So when we connect with that natural state, this phenomena of the bad grade, good grade will not have such a big influence, because we know it's okay. If like someone tells me now you're a giraffe, I would be like, okay, I know I am not a giraffe. So this comes in the spiritual phenomenon. once you are in the emotional phenomena, to call it something, then you deal with it with these helps that are very useful, and you can deal with it all your life with that kind of methods. If you want to go to the spiritual and subtle energies, you can also have this other perspective. So it's just an alternative, in my opinion. It's not a must.
So in other words, you are creating your own reality. You are saying, you know, I am the author of how I identify myself. Is that right?
Yes, but it's more complex than just saying that. Yes.
Okay, let's move on. So tell us about what exactly is then psychology? What's your definition of it? And where do you get that definition from?
Well, my thinking has been influenced by the following authors. You can show us the, yes. So this is the teachers that have inspired me the most, and from them I have collected my information and more, but this is like the main list. And then from my experience, so you can go to the next slide. Is I think number 2.
Yep, 1 second. And tell us about tell us about, as I get to those slides, tell us about those authors, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung. Tell us, are any of them more important than the other? Or are they all, are they contradictory? Or are they
No,
all
it's like
saying
a
the same thing?
puzzle. Yeah, so I have a lot of questions regarding spiritual life in myself from the time I was little. And those authors helped me to answer the question. So when I say they influence my thinking, is not all that they teach, but specifically I found answers in the most work that they have written. So I was searching for those answers and reading till I found them. And these are the people where I found what I was looking for.
And just briefly, are some of them very popular? Would some of them go?
Yeah, they are
under
all the biggest ones anyway.
So they are bestsellers. They would go under the contemporary rubric of self-help, for instance.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, understood. Okay, moving on. So here, your experience.
Yeah, so as I told in the beginning, I do think well-being must, or not must, because spirituality is not a must, but can be seen as these 3 pillars. See, physiology, of course, because we're biological beings, we have chemistry in our brain, and when something is not working, this is the way to go. Psychology, to understand our behavior, our emotions. And then in my particular case, and I know there's many other people who are also feel drawn to this subtle phenomena of the human experience. So for me, in order for me to feel well-being, I have these 3 pillars in balance. Yes. You can go to the next one. So I summarized very broad, like psychology in the phenomena. You have the behaviors and you have thoughts, and I also mentioned emotions. So basically are these 3 things of the human experience. The other are just the results of having thoughts, results of having behaviors, and results of having emotions.
So when you say thoughts, then you just generally mean, how is that different from feelings then, when you talk about thoughts?
From what?
From feelings, because
feelings or thoughts or emotions and behaviors. You can write all these 4.
Okay.
Yeah. No difference. It's the psychological. There's nothing before. No, because we're going. Sorry. Yeah. So I wrote here like psychology, treatments, and therapies are used to overcome problems, crisis, trauma, treat mental disorders, improve relationships, help a person change behavior, and develop social skills, among others. So we all know what psychology can do, and this is the phenomena of where problems happen, where crises happen, when trauma happens in the behaviors and the emotions or feelings and thoughts. And I don't know if we want to already go to spirituality. Do I have another slide in psychology?
Nope, that's it.
No. Okay. Then I can now explain what is spirituality for me. So let's go back to so I can read where psychology and spirituality. So spirituality, it's about building a relationship to reconnect with that part of ourselves that feels like a higher power, as I mentioned at the beginning. It's not fixing emotions or thoughts or anything. It's building a relationship with the subtle or the eternal part of me, if we think there is one, if we feel like it's very logical. For me, there's nothing more obvious than having a spirit that we are eternal. This has always made sense to me from the time I'm a little girl, and it has stayed like that. So because it is so dominant in my reasoning, I have been studying that, how if I feel so strongly about it, that is so, that I am indeed an eternal being, then how is it so? And that's why I have been in this spiritual journey all my life, trying to figure out if it's really true, if it really works, and how. And that's why I call it build a relationship with a part of ourselves that we call divine guidance or unconditional love, or of course, if we can also call it God.
And to be clear, Natalia, so the main difference I see here in these two definitions is that psychology pretty much has to do with a person in society. And
Yes.
Spirituality has to do with that person outside of society, that person alone, being alone.
Exactly. Yes, you can say it like that. But it's a relationship. For me, spirituality cannot exist without a relationship with the other me. So if you go to the next slide, you will see two girls. And other ones with the two girls, exactly. So spirituality must be about an inner relationship. So I am more than one. So when we are more than one, we can already have a dialogue. So of course, this dialogue is connected to our thoughts and our behaviors. That's why it's a little bit crossing with psychology, but not at all. Not the whole, just a little bit. So when we have thoughts, we might have also an inner spiritual dialogue with the higher self that we have been familiar with. But of course, that requires first that we already have a relationship with our inner person or inner wisdom or God, or however you want, you feel comfortable calling that phenomenon. And then you can go to the next slide. Here I also make the difference between psychology and spirituality, in the sense that in psychology, you are one individual. I am Natalia, that's it, it's one person, me. Once you enter the phenomena of spirituality, you must recognize that there are 2 points of focus. So I am not one individual, I am 2 individuals, let's say. So we are plural, we. So that's the very, very important difference, because that changes the whole game. When you realize you are 2 and not 1.
And Natalia, tell us a little bit about the how you came to this conclusion. I remember reading in Carl Gustav Jung, he talks about that idea of that a person, a man has a male person identity, and then also a female identity, and a woman has a female identity and a male identity. Tell us about the development of this idea of the two consciousness, and how would any of us here today, how would we be able to identify that? Is it, having the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, or what is it exactly? Can you give us some kind of concrete examples of that?
Yes, so the best example is when you hurt someone. I don't know, you have a very good friend, he was annoying for whatever reason, you got mad and you yell at him. In that second, you have 2 points of focus. One is the one hating this person, and the other focus is the focus wanting to love this person. Because deep inside, you want the best for your friend and you do not want to yell at him. So this comes later. So we are not yet in the spiritual wound. Okay, thank you. So that's the 2 focus. So in the same moment, you feel you are aware of 2 realities. 1, you want to love him. 2, you hate him right now. So that's a clear experience for me that I have 2 points of focus. My awareness is right now in 2 places. No, not 2 places, but 2 different awareness in one place. Yes, so that's how I feel.
You have those two feelings, in other words.
Not feelings, are awarenesses. Because in that moment, you're not feeling love for your friend. You want to punch him in the face. So the feeling or the emotion is one. But the awareness or the consciousness is 2. 1, in your physical anger, you want to punch him. 2, in your unconditional love, you want to love him and appreciate him at the same time. And that is why you feel the discord. Because you want to punch him, but actually you want to also love him. Probably not right away, but for sure a couple of minutes later.
Okay, so let's move on then. This is, when you talk about spiritual wounds, what do you mean?
Okay, so it's the same dynamic. As we are 2 points of focus, I will stay with this terminology. So focus is for me where you put your attention. So you're putting your attention in 2 different objects. So when we are born, these focuses are identical. These both parts, we can also say parts and not focus. So these 2 parts of us are identical. And then when we grow up, slowly, these 2 points of attention have their attention separated. So you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I wrote here, as time goes by, a small part of us becomes aware of the absence of love. So when we are born, we are unconditional love. And when this focus starts separating and we are becoming a little bit, where there's like a little split, is when you are aware of the absence of love, the absence of kindness, the absence of collaboration, of appreciation and respect. So this is when you start feeling these 2 awarenesses. The second opinion of ourselves, that is, there is no love, there is no kindness, hurts us. But at the beginning, always hurts a little bit. But if we are aware of this repeatedly, like if we are observing absence of respect daily, it becomes a wound. And I would say almost all of us have witnessed in our childhood absence of kindness, absence of appreciation, absence of respect on a chronic basis. So we probably have in some degree of a spiritual wound, if we want to use this terminology. Yes.
Okay, so can we move on to our next question, which is, to what ends can the practice of spirituality be applied along with psychology and pharmacology as one of 3 resources for improved mental health?
So I wrote in my slide when to integrate spirituality. So to what extent, as I said at the beginning, the spiritual dimension or phenomena is very specific for the people that feel drawn to it. So there is a part of society that feels drawn to this experience. So then it's necessary to answer those questions. Also, it will be good to integrate spirituality when you already have psychiatry medication, you are already balanced and so on. So the phenomena of the physical is being helped. The phenomena of the emotions and behavior with your psychologist or your psychoanalyst or behavior and therapist, you also make big improvement. You are not drinking anymore, or you're not smoking anymore. It's already okay, and you still feel some emptiness inside, then I would recommend to integrate spirituality, because probably that the phenomena of the subtle experience maybe is missing. But most of all, if it's of interest. So many people are super interested in how this phenomena works, and that's the reason why should people integrate it.
And so you're saying that all 3 of them can be used together, that you don't have to say only, okay, I'm taking medication, or I'm doing cognitive behavioral therapy, or I have a spiritual life coach. You're saying they each treat a different aspect of our mental health. Is that right?
Exactly, over human experience.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Next question then, how does somebody know that they should seek out a mental health professional? How do, because before we know people were thought to be crazy if they had mental health problems, that people were, it implied some kind of psychosis. Today, how do we know, okay, I should probably look for a mental health professional?
Yeah, so there is some tendencies that when we realize we are doing them, it would be very helpful to seek for help, if it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a spiritual expert. Any of them will help you. Any of them will send you to the one that is, like, if someone comes to me and I realize is in the emotions, behavior, phenomena, I will for sure recommend them as a psychologist. If I realize it's more chemical, or there's a lot of extremes, and the momentum in a bad moment is very hard, then probably most for sure psychiatry, because first you need to do the physical to calm down. And if I realize it's more subtle, it's more of the soul, the spirit, then I will be happy to help them in their journey. So these are the things that if you find out you are doing some of this, it will be helpful and beneficial to seek for help. So when addictive compulsive behaviors is very popular, offender behaviors to others and to oneself. So to others is pretty popular because when you hit people all the time or you scream or so on, but to oneself is maybe not so popular. If you treat yourself like crap all the time, maybe it's beneficial for your happiness to seek for help. all or nothing thinking in extremes. Like if I met some guy somewhere, and if he doesn't write me right away a message back, he will never write me again. He hates me. Or I will never find a boyfriend in my life. Or if we make a little mistake at the job, they will fire me. I will never find a job. So all or nothing, thinking in extremes. Also, when we identify with the emotional pain, so if I feel guilty, I must be a bad person. So we are flawed. There's something wrong with me. So I am wrong, not that I did something wrong, but I am wrong. So this is also important to seek help when you feel like that. Or perfectionism, I must get it right. I must figure out the right way, because otherwise something will happen. You feel guarded. You must do something in order for other people not to hurt you, not to discover you. Not they will find out I am actually a fraud. I am an error actually, and you feel excluded for any little thing. So if a group of people call 2 or 3 other, they didn't call you, because sometimes happens just like that, you immediately feel nobody wants to spend time with you. So these are a little bit tendencies. Sometimes it's very, very active. Sometimes it's just a little bit. But to heal these things, it will make your life more relaxed, more happy. You will be able to focus more in the job. You will have more creativity. So I will not wait for a terrible thing to happen. Just if you don't have a happy and healthy or joyful relationship with yourself, I will totally ask for some help just to have an inner peace and a good dialogue with myself.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's how important it is for all of us to take a look at those and see them written, and see that perhaps all of us feel those things sometimes. And so would you recommend then, even in sometime in the future, do you see that we do a yearly physical checkup with the doctor, and the doctor looks us over, and so I imagine that you would think also sometime in the future they would also send us for a yearly mental checkup. How do you feel about yourself? How is that? Is that what you imagine sometime in the future?
No, not to do it like something obligatory. Usually is when you feel stuck at a topic in your life and you wonder why it's not working, then it's time to ask for someone's company or help.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Natalia, tell us a little bit now about your personal story, about your personal mental health journey. It seems like from what you're telling us, that mental health, it's a process that we practice every day, like good physical health. We eat good, we exercise. Mental health, I believe you're telling us, is also something that you have a relationship with, that every day you work to keep good mental health. Tell us about your journey and how each one of us can also map out our own personal mental health journey.
Yes, so I do say that spirituality is a resource for mental health, in the sense that, as I already explained, the physical, the behavior, the emotional. So the emotional phenomena is mental health. And when you have the spiritual phenomena, you have a relationship with your higher power or your eternal part of you, this brings a lot of confidence, self-love, respect, kindness to yourself and to others. When you are in this state, of course, it's helpful for your mental health. So spirituality is not directly mental health. It's just one of many resources to help having a balanced life or a balanced mental health. So in my journey, I did all of the steps or the phenomena. And as I told you, I learned on the go, in the sense that things happened in my life and I started searching for answers. And I wrote those books from these very famous people. And I did the therapies, and I went to the psychiatrist and to the psychoanalyst and to the psychology, and also to some spiritual teachers. And from all of them, I make the puzzle of my answers. So what I teach today is not only based on summaries of the books I read, is all the questions I had when these things happened to me. So when I was 19, I got pregnant. So this was horrible, and I had a lot of questions. So then I lost my grandfather, who I was raised by him. So he was like my father. So it was a very, very important figure. Then I had a very close person in my life who suicide. And that was probably the most difficult of all, because I couldn't understand. And that's where I got deepened into topics mental health, because he had a bipolar disorder. So I really wanted to understand, because I had lived with this person many years. So this was a big question mark. And then after my 10 years of marriage, I got divorced. I decided that I wanted something different, that I wanted a different life. And this, of course, was I felt like a failure. My family dream crashed totally, and 10 years was for me a significant time, being so young. So this also shaped my questions bomb, and I started reading and also doing and applying all the things they said. And then after a couple of years after my divorce, I also had depression. And I built myself up from the curiosity of all these questions, like, why do I feel this terrible? Why do people do this? Why things happen? So what I teach now is not only a collection of theories, is the things I had applied myself. Many of the things I wrote you, I felt myself. So it's a mixture between my own practical experience, the things I learned from many, many books, because Freud and Carl Jung are not living anymore. So you need to rely on the books, and many people are alive, and I learned from them. And I also healed from many therapies and so on.
So Natalia, so each one of these events, as you mentioned, milestones, as you call them, pregnancy, loss, the death of your grandfather, suicide of a close person, divorce from your husband, depression, and pregnancy, I should say, teen pregnancy. These would be, for anybody, I mean, these are life-altering events. These are really, there are physical changes in your life. So is that what, when I or anyone else is mapping out their spiritual milestones or their mental health milestones, that's what we should be looking for? Are these large physical life-changing events? Is some kind of health catastrophe?
It doesn't need to be, but it seems like when you are in such a crisis, you come up with those questions, like there must be something more, or why is this happening? So these questions seem to show up when nothing makes sense anymore. It's usually the spiritual questions pop up, but I don't think it's a must. I had them from the time I was a little girl, as I mentioned, so I was already in this mode, let's say. That's why when things happened to me, that was my first option to go. But yeah, it seems like we ask these questions when nothing makes sense anymore.
And so
yes.
Those also, again, those milestones that you listed, I think they would be key factors in any kind of mental health evaluation. Do you see them also like that? If you were going to a psychiatrist for medication, to a psychologist for cognitive behavioral therapy, all of those 5 events would be, I mean, very seriously evaluated.
Yes, yes. Well, when one of these events happen, it affects all of the phenomena: spiritual, emotional, behavior, thoughts, physical. So you have like your building shaking all over all the phenomena. So it is very important you check all of them, because it's a cooperation. Maybe some chemistry somewhere you need to balance perfect. Maybe you need to learn how to behave different because you never learned to behave that way, that it will be beneficial for your place in society. Maybe you go to a mental trainer to help you how to have new thoughts or positive thoughts. And then also, which is my relationship with my eternal self, who I am really. What is that unconditional love? Can I love myself unconditionally? Can I love other people unconditionally? And do I really have a wisdom within me? I am being guided to the things do I want. So it's all phenomena across the human experience that are shaken by those events. So just doing one is probably not enough, but it is enough to do all of them without the spiritual phenomena, because not everybody has the feels attracted to this kind of experience. So I think, but I am not sure if I'm going to think this in many years, but for now I think there is both kind of people, ones that are more in the physical phenomena, finding their peace, and the other group more in the subtle unconditional love connection to the nature and universe, or if you want to call them God, that's where they find their peace. So for me, I'm both right, and both are needed to have a whole diverse humanity. Yes.
Fantastic. And it should be, I think, pointed out that anybody living through those kind of events would naturally so-called self-medicate, whether it would be drinking alcohol or start to smoke or go out to the club every night. I mean, so I believe what you'd recommend then is, you know, don't change your lifestyle right away. Go and speak to a professional and figure out that a healthy way to deal with this. Is that right? Are there
Yes,
any
correct.
questions for Natalia? Any comments? Would anybody like to ask her or say anything? She's here to answer your questions, hear your comments. Hi, Dr. Davis. I believe you have something to say. That we
I
can't
think
hear you yet,
yeah.
Dr. Davis? You see that anywhere? Unmute?
There you go.
Perfect.
There you go. That's
Hi.
better. Hi, very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. In your practice, have you noticed any difference in dealing with male patients versus female patients?
Not really. There is both kinds in both genders, but female women are more interested in spiritual topics, but men can also be very interested in that. So yeah, but the trend, if you go to like a spiritual workshop from one of these Louise Hay or anyone, well, she's not alive anymore, but in that time, you will probably find 80% female, 20% male. Yes, but not really. It's mostly women, but when you are in the conversation already, there is not a difference. One. Yes.
Thank you. Very good.
Thanks, Dr. Davis. So last question then, Natalia. So what does good mental health look like? Should a person feel how should a person feel? Should she or he be smiling all the time, never feel bad? What does good mental health look like?
So we more or less don't have an option than feel a little bit better or feel a little bit worse. So the optimum state is being aware that you only have these two choices, feeling a little bit better or feeling a little bit worse. And if you catch this awareness, okay, now I feel crap, I can feel a little bit more crap or a little bit less crap. And you choose day by day a little bit less crap, eventually you will realize you can a little bit create your state of emotions, if we can call it like that. So I call this phenomena relief, and maybe you can show the slide. The relief, this is different. Exactly.
It is.
Yes, relief. So you can go to the next relief slide. I don't need to explain this one. Yeah, so relief is like a guidance. The moment you feel relief, you're in the right direction, meaning that you will eventually feel better. You can go to the next slide because I am aware of the time. Okay, so I call this emotional relativity because if you feel relief in that moment, you will have a better emotion. And if you tell yourself something and you don't feel relief, you will have in that moment a little bit of you will feel a little bit worse. So to sum up, you can already take out the slides. Yeah, I did it very fast because I am aware of the time. The way of how you formulate the question, the way of having a good emotional health is to be aware, where can I find a little bit of relief? That's it. If you master that, awesome.
Fantastic. So let's see how we can stay in touch with Natalia. Here is her website. I can pull that over here. There it is, NataliaVillanuevaGarcia.com. And here you have her services and her contact. Can people feel free then to reach out to you, Natalia? There's your email.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You can reach out to me on my website, on my email. Also, just ask questions. If you have any questions later, I will gladly answer them.
Fantastic. So I will put that in the chat room so everybody can take a look at it. Thank you so very much to Natalia Villanueva Garcia.
Thank you.
So let's take a look at what's coming up next week. Allegra Chapman. What is a professional pianist's job description? Today's job titles bestow seemingly ordinary jobs with a fantastical nature. Quote, workplace experience host means receptionist. Quote, associate recruiting manager, diversity, inclusion, and belonging means recruiter. Usually the job descriptions below those fantastic titles sober the job seeker up by enumerating that position's principal tasks, like, quote, answer the phone or recruit college graduates. Are those jobs being marketed as positions of greater value because the so-called Great Resignation has left companies struggling to fill openings? Or maybe, quote, employer branding consultants have convinced decision makers that such titles improve employee retention and make the company culture more respectful of all its employees? Or maybe it's simply the cheapest way to earn membership at the, quote, diverse, equitable, and inclusive club. After all, Chief Executive Officer is comprised of two adjectives and one noun, too. Much to the contrary, Allegra Chapman's job title is deceptively simple, pianist, but her job defies easy description. The, quote, omnivorous soloist and chamber musician, adventurous curator, and passionate educator, performs, educates, and even produces music festivals and music videos around the globe. Come welcome Allegra to our show, and let's get an inside perspective of the extraordinary nature of one professional pianist's job description. As always, all information about upcoming shows may be found at www.simeonmoro.com. Again, that's Allegra Chapman. What is a professional pianist's job description? Again, thank you so very much to Natalia Villanueva García. Thank you to Agnieszka and Benoit Rivolet for their support of this show. Most of all, thanks to you, our participants, who make it all worthwhile. From Vienna, Austria, and New London, New Hampshire, goodbye. See you next Wednesday.